Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at how to stream mobile phone camera feeds to TouchDesigner, and then use some other tools to turn those camera feeds into easy interactive data to create interactive art anywhere, whether or not you have gear on you. We'll be doing all of this using free tools as well, so it really should be open for anybody. So let's take a look at where we're going with this. We have a fluid simulation that I'm just using as kind of the placeholder effect here. And then we have this hand tracking emitter source. We're using a different obstacle layer. That's this kind of outline of my silhouette that you can see. And then finally, when we make a fist, our emitter source is going to be changing in radius. So we can see that there's kind of three different interactive elements that are all going on here. And all of these interactions are controlled with nothing but the webcam we have on our computer, and then streaming the camera data in from our iPhone. So, yes, I'm going to go over how to do all of this. I'm going to first take care of kind of getting rid of all of this and resetting it all up. So I'm going to open up OBS. I'm going to do a couple things. Don't worry about these. We're going to be coming back to that. And apologies for my infinity windows. I've got all of this all cleared out. So we have a nice clean TouchDesigner project ready to work on, which we're going to come back to in just a second. So before we do that, I'll go over exactly what we're going to, sorry about that. We're going to go over exactly download for this. So there are going to be a couple downloads that we need to make sure we have. The first is going to be OBS Studio. That's just a download. So you're going to want to make sure that you download this. Then we're going to need OBS New Tech NDI plugin. This is also a download to your computer. We'll grab the OBS Iphone Cam Plugin or Android Cam Plugin, whichever is appropriate for you. You'll want to make sure you have iTunes downloaded. Um, if you're on Windows, if you're on Mac, it shouldn't be a problem. And then last but not least, we're going to download Mediapipe from TouchDesigner. And this is a GPU accelerated computer vision library that was developed by, I think, Google originally, and then ported to TouchDesigner with some really clever coding by Torrent, who is a great guy and a friend of mine that I am super happy to be able to use this component for. So Torrent Blankensmith is the guy that created this. I'm sure you've seen some stuff about it. It's kind of everywhere. And we're going to be using this media pipe as a way to get some usable interaction data out of our webcam feed. So you can go over to the release here and then scroll down to this release.zip and just download that. I'm not going to do it because I already have, but if I navigate to my downloads and my releases, sorry, my release.zip, we'll see you should have something that looks very similar. It's going to be two tox file or tow files and then a folder of toxes. And these toxes will be what we're going to drop into our project. So I'm going to take a pause here and let you guys kind of download all this stuff. And then the last thing that you will need is iPhone OBS camera app or the equivalent one for Android. It's called iOS, there you go, Camera for OBS Studio on the Apple Store, and Droid Cam for OBS Studio looks like on the Android Store. So just download that. I have the free version. I'm not using premium. The watermark is not too much of an issue because we can still do our computer vision over top of it. So yeah, like I said, grab all of this stuff. And while you're doing that, I'm going to head back over to TouchDesigner and just start to build out a really simple little effect network. So I'm just going to grab two noises. You guys have seen this a million times by now. Um, Make sure I change the period and the seed, turn monochrome off on both of them, and then drop the offset on this. to 0. And this is going to be our palette for our noise. And then I'm going to use a constant and make it like a very small alpha and wire this into the the density emit output. I guess I will note here that this fluid simulation component is available on my Patreon for anyone that would like to grab it. However, it is being used just as a placeholder here, so if you don't have access to this component, don't feel like paying for it, and just want to use your own effect, that's totally fine. I'm just going to be using this because it is quite simple to add interactivity into, and I think is a good example to just kind of use working through how to get the iPhone camera stream hooked up and how to use that. So head over to my Patreon and grab this Tox if you want. But if you don't, feel free to just use your own effect. After I am, well, I'm pretty much done with this now, and so the rest from here is going to be just using interaction layers to interact with this system. So without further ado, I guess we can get that part going. So I'm going to go to my Mediapipe Tox. I'm going to drop in the Mediapipe, and I'm going to drop in hand tracking. Now there's a couple things I would recommend we get rid of this external tox and we turn off all of these toggles but hands. In hand tracking, we can go to layout, turn off these parameters just to get rid of that error. And then we will grab the very first chop output, which is normalized data. And so what that means, it's not very easy to see. What that means is that as we have our hand being picked up by the feed, that you can get our position data for kind of all of these different points of the hand. Now, this is looking at my webcam at the moment, but we're going to take care of that in just a second and get our iPhone camera stream hooked up. So now we kind of just have Mediapipe working, and the reason that we don't want to just use the webcam is kind of two reasons. One, we might want to use the webcam for something else. Or two, we might want to have our camera pointed somewhere that the webcam doesn't go. Or simply have a camera situated somewhere that is not feasible to have our laptop open and have a webcam pointing out. Alternatively, maybe you have a desktop without a webcam and you want to use your iPhone as a webcam. All of these, and I'm sure many other possibilities are out there as to why this is a helpful tool to have in the toolbox. So anyway, without further ado, we can get into exactly how we're going to do this. So I now have everything kind of unplugged from my computer, and I'm going to go back to OBS Studio. So this is now pretty much exactly how it should look for you guys when you download it, with the exception of kind of these scenes. I'm using this to actively record this tutorial. It's a great piece of software. You probably won't have all of that, but the rest should look pretty similar. So how do we get our camera feeds in there? So the way that we get our camera feeds in here is to, one, after we downloaded all of this stuff, open broadcaster software, is what OBS stands for. After we've downloaded all this stuff, restart a computer, open up OBS, make sure you have the app downloaded on your iPhone, and open it up on the iPhone. Now, let's see, does this work? Can you see this? Yeah, kind of. So this little gear icon here, you touch the gear icon, and then this outputs, right, outputs, and then this is your NDI and the USB. So we're first going to use this NDI, and whoops, I tried to hit done instead I hit premium. We're going to use the NDI first. So to get our NDI source into here, what we're going to do is use this plus sign, click on the NDI source, and then on this drop down,
see our iPhone camera for OBS. So we can click OK. I'm going to resize this window. And then the other thing that we need to do is start our virtual camera. And this is going to allow us to send the NDI right to Mediapipe. So this is still using my webcam. if I change this to the OBS virtual camera, and then go back to OBS, and go to my virtual camera settings, make sure that we're outputting just this NDI source output selection, and then start that virtual camera. And then now, go back to TouchDesigner, we can see that the virtual camera is now being used for Mediapipe, and the NDI stream in is what's being passed through that virtual camera. So that's pretty cool because, again, it allows us to, one, have different orientations of camera, also point the camera in different directions, use different cameras at the same time. And as we'll see in a second, it enables us then to free up our webcam to use our webcam as another piece of interactivity. So we take a look at the hand tracking really quick. We can see that we have all of this data, which is really just kind of like the finger joints and the wrist. So I'm most interested in the wrist for this, so I'm going to grab a select, and I'm going to select H1 star wrist star, and then I just want the X and Y positions, and I'm going to rename those to TX and TY. Then, because those are from 0 to 1, because these are normalized datas, I will rearrange from minus 0.5 to 0.5. I will then drop a circle top. Make sure that I set this to the resolution of my fluids.
Apologies for the feedback there for a second. I forgot to turn off the audio from my NDI cam. Make this radius smaller, 0.05. And then I will add a N and drag and drop my TX and TY on the circle. So now we have the circle that moves as I move my hand, and I will then just drag this right into my constant. I'm going to set the constant to add instead of multiply. And so now we have a nice, fully interactive hand tracking system where we're using this emitter to add to our density. So this is a little bit choppy, and even though it is just a placeholder effect, I want it to look a little bit nicer, so I'm going to add a tiny little feedback loop. And I'm going to make it easy. I'm just going to use a cross feedback, cross something like this, and that should give us a little bit more of a smooth trail. Still not perfect, but I think it's pretty good for our purposes right now. And then to add one more layer of interactivity, we can grab this gestures, which will then show us different gestures based on the machine learning library, like pointing, thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs down, thumbs up. I would like to use a select chop and get the closed fist. So I'm just going to grab closed fist from H1 because I'm only using one hand right now. Obviously, you can do whatever you want regarding that. I'm going to rename it to click, and then just going to use a merge. Bring that click in, and then actually one other thing, I'm going to use a logic off when outside bounds and make this 0.5. And so now we just have kind of a trigger with our click. So when we have our hand clenched, there we go. Just a little bit out of the frame. Okay, so there you go. So now when my hand is closed, we have a 1. And when my hand is open, we have a 0. So we can do a couple things there. We could just drag this onto the alpha And then when I have my hand closed, the alpha is 1. So it's kind of like we're clicking and dragging and drawing this line. When I open my hand, it vanishes. It's definitely one that we can do. I'm going to actually, though, use a math, which I'll just multiply by 0.1. And then I'm going to use a speed, set that speed to zigzag, 0.05 to 0.5. And I'm just going to drag that into my rename. And then we can actually have this click used as our radius now. So we have this circle that's tracking our hand, and now, because of this speed, when my hand is closed, the speed is going to be zigzagging. So the circle is going to be growing from 0.5 to 0.05 in radius. And then when I open my hand, that speed is going to stop. So we're going to have the circle that just remains kind of at the same size, and then resumes once I close, once I close my hand again. Now you will notice that the directions on the X direction are kind of backward. So I'm just going to square that away by using another math. This is between my rearrange and my select. So I'm going to grab just X and I'm just going to reverse it. And so this way, let's get my circle lower, smaller. There you go. Now we open the hand. And now, yes, as I'm moving left to right, our circle is tracking in screen space as we would expect. And so, yeah, there you have it. Using Mediapipe and streaming cameras or a camera feed from our mobile phone to give some really easy interactivity and a bunch of different ways for you to kind of experiment with using your own things. Now, I mentioned that one of the benefits of this whole process is that you can use other video devices, like in this case, just a webcam, as another interactive layer. So if I drop down a NVIDIA background and then an edge, and this is just going to be like super quick and easy. So now I just have a nice little edge, and I just use that as an obstacle in my fluid sim. So then we can see now we have kind of like multiple levels of interaction, all using nothing but webcams that are available on our device or on our phone. And by using this kind of OBS, NDI, or USB technique, it will allow us to, really leverage all of the interactivity we can, and also turn pretty much anything interactive in very, very short period of time. So I guess I just want to note this has been using NDI. If your NDI is slow and lagging for whatever reason, and it's just not like working the way that you want it to, you can instead use the USB. So you can plug in your iPhone to your computer. Make sure you have iTunes downloaded if you're on Windows, and then you can add a iOS camera source instead of an NDI source. So I turn off the NDI source and I go in my iOS app. Well, that's not gonna work, is it? If I go in the OBS app and we change using the settings, switch it from NDI output to USB output, press done, and make sure that took, and you can see the USB output in the status bar
at the bottom. Now, going back to our OBS, we can see that iOS camera feed is indeed now running from our cell phone. So that's super nice. That'll be way less latency depending on your bandwidth constraints and all of that stuff. So that is very handy to know about And yeah, pretty powerful in using all of these different types of interactivities. So, oh, right. So this is no longer working because our virtual camera was pointing at our NDI source, not our iOS cam source. And so if we just switch that, and now we're back to having a fully functioning interactive artwork. So I'm going to leave that here for now. Hopefully this is some good information to get things going and give you guys something to play around with over the holidays. I hope that everybody has nice holidays. Enjoy this time. Just chilling, kicking it, doing whatever you're doing. I will look forward to doing another one of these tutorials soon. And until then, hope you all enjoy the holidays and get some rest.